I think it's inevitable that anyone that models the SP ends up with a tunnel motor and a GS4, and maybe a cab forward. Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's your boy, Shouldn'tPaintSoFast, and after a couple months hiatus, I am back. I took some time off to work on building my new studio in my shed, and also put together a truck model. I did one of Mobius Model's late 60s Ford F-250s. Really fun model. I had intended initially on filming it, but just with all the other stuff going on in my life, I didn't get a chance to really sit down and work on it all in one block. So I just couldn't keep track of what I was saying in every video. Plus, it's summertime here, and the living is easy, and it's also hot as balls during the day. So I've been kind of limited in terms of just coming out here in the mornings and the evenings, because my shed, as of yet, is not air conditioned, and it gets to be hundreds of degrees in here. But yes, we have a kind of sad looking tunnel motor. In particular, this is another Athearn ready to roll creation. So again, being part of the ready to roll series, this is their slightly more affordable, I guess, line of locomotives. It's not a Genesis, so it's not the most detailed locomotive in the world, although that being said, they did do a pretty damn good job with it. Of course, being Athearn, I'm sure if we sit here long enough, we will find something that they got wrong. But yeah, I have no complaints for it for the price. The biggest detail that is missing is intentionally so. Comes with a little baggie full of various spare parts, but also including the breathers and the various pipes that come off the front and the back of the fuel tank. For some reason, they just don't install them on the ready-to-roll locomotives. It's about 5 parts in total. It's not a big deal. Just kind of odd that they don't include them for some reason, when they clearly have no problem putting small parts on other parts of the locomotive. So I know what you're thinking. What the hell is going on with the paint on this thing? This is actually based on a real locomotive, the real 8314. At some point, I don't know if it had a fire or if it got in a wreck or what, but at some point, they ended up repainting just the top half of the locomotive, and the bottom half, for some reason, they left in just the factory paint that it came with. Of course, originally, the entire locomotive would have been the SP gray color. It's just the paint on the lower part of the locomotive is sun faded, so it was this lighter gray color. And yeah, for some reason, they just never ended up painting Southern Pacific on the side of the locomotive either. They got it on the nose. No, they don't have it on the back, actually. So yeah, for some reason, they just never got around to it. So I got an idea almost immediately when I saw this guy. I don't remember what number it is, but there was at least one other tunnel motor that was in a similar situation where they partially repainted it for some reason. But rather than putting the full Southern Pacific on the side of the locomotive, they just put an SP in block letters. I think they used the same stencil that they used on the nose, and they just painted SP on the side for some reason. So yeah, seeing those photos gave me some inspiration and an idea. Over the years, I have collected a number of these sets of microscale decals and HO scale for the SP and SF Kodachrome units. Included in these sets, as you can see, are also the white letters that were originally envisioned to be part of the SPSF Kodachrome paint scheme. I can't remember what the numbers were, but originally they painted 2 SD45-2s in the original version of what was supposed to be SPSF Kodachrome, and it had white lettering for some reason. And then the final version of what Kodachrome was supposed to be, they went back to yellow lettering on the side. Now, I don't intend on ever really using these white SP and SF letters for any other projects. So, let's see if I can find them on here. Yeah, see, they have the little white ones that were, I think they were originally going to be on the nose that was going to say SPSF. just in white lettering. Let me go. Of course, they're on different places on both decal sheets. But yeah, I was thinking I could maybe put those on the side of the hood, just in small white lettering to kind of make it look like, one of the more quick patch jobs that ended up being done shortly after the DNSF and the UP mergers. You can see, for some inexplicable reason, they've only given us one set of the little white SPSF letters on the SP decals. And then on the Santa Fe decals, they gave us two SFs in white. So I'm either going to have to track down another set of the SP versions of the decals, or I might just get creative and turn one of these SFs into an SP with some paint. Yeah, that's just bizarre. I hadn't even noticed that until now. Good job, Microscale.
Well, what have we here?
So for starters, because we're going to be applying decals to the body of the locomotive, I'm going to go ahead and paint the newer finished dark gray areas with a gloss clear coat. This will help sort of delineate between the new and the old paint on the locomotive, as well as give us a nice glossy smooth surface for the decals to adhere to. I apologize, I have my fans going. It is hot as balls in here. It's actually not even that hot of a day. It's only like 75 degrees, but because I'm in a shed with no AC, it heats up like crazy in here. And I have the windows open too. I splurged and got a fancy shed with windows. I mean, it helps a little bit, but on days like today where there's no wind, we have to make our own wind. You can see I'm not being too particularly careful with this. This is going to have several different top coats applied to it. The main thing is I want to get the sides of these hoods, or the side of the hood area rather, to give the decals a good surface to adhere to. This is just Vallejo metal varnish. It's a water-based gloss clear coat. You can use it on things that aren't metallic paints. It's fine, I won't tell anybody. I'm assuming if you're watching my channel, you probably have at least a decent idea of how to put decals on. If you don't, thankfully they all come with instructions. Just going to go ahead and try to line this up with the second set of hinges on the hood doors. The cool part about doing your own patch jobs and paint schemes like this, right, is that you can use guides on the model itself to help you place your decals evenly, right? In the real world, when they paint locomotives and trains in general, you know, they just, they'll oftentimes, like, just use a tape measure and kind of measure, like, this comes, like, the SPSF is supposed to be however many inches above the walkway, right? But in this case, we don't have to worry about that. We can just line it up wherever we want. Again, with patches like this, they're very rarely perfect in the real world. So I am trying to get the letters as straight as possible. If they're not 100% perfect, that is A-okay. Okay, so I had to slide the locomotive a little closer to me to get the SF lined up correctly. So I didn't get that on camera. These decals are actually sitting pretty flat to the body of the locomotive, but they are sort of floating above the joints in the hood doors, so I'm just going to go ahead and brush a light coat of Solvaset on them. Look who finally spent $2.99 and got a new paint palette. So as we can see, I was not able to get another set of those SP Kodachrome decals. So I am now going to be turning my F into a P. Kind of fortuitous that the abbreviation worked out that way, that you could make the letters out of the other letters. And even if it is not perfect, that's okay, because by the time I'm done weathering it, you won't be able to tell the difference. Okay, so after applying a clear coat over the decals, I'm now just going to go over them a little bit with some Vallejo Model Air Gray. Actually matches SP Gray pretty close. I'm just going to go over the top of it with a low pressure, just to kind of soften the decal lines a little bit and make it look a little weathered. See all these other little warning labels and stuff around the body of the locomotive. Just gonna go over those too. No, I've probably said 15 or 20 times on this channel, but getting yourself an inline air regulator for your airbrush will make your life so much easier. Just gonna go ahead and hand paint some rust on the pilot and on some other parts of the locomotive now. This is just burnt umber, and then we'll eventually go over some of these areas with standard light rust, as you've seen in my other videos, to sort of simulate fresh rust. Just using the same Athearn 502 burnt umber oil wash that I always use for dirt and rust and this sort of thing. Thinned down with AK Interactive's matte thinner. Just going over the trucks and the pilots, and a little bit on the nose and the end of the long hood as well. Alrighty, oil washes are done. Gonna move on to exhaust staining. If you've seen any one of my weathering videos before, you know what I use for my exhaust stains and my sort of theory behind it. Vallejo dark gray blue, shot well mixed at low pressure. Starting from the exhaust stack itself and slowly working outwards. So the gray-blue isn't showing up quite as well as I would like. I mean, that kind of makes sense given most of the locomotive is dark gray. So I just added a couple drops of black to the mix, and I'm now going to just go over just over the area right around the exhaust port and maybe like the dynamic brake fans and the air filter box, just to kind of bring out the exhaust stains a little more. I've also done this before in previous videos, but I'm just going to use the AK Dust and Rain Marks pencil, and I'm just going to add some light streaking on these kind of corners on the roof, and also on the sides of the long hood and the nose of the locomotive. Really just to add some texture variation, if nothing else. I have no idea, let me zoom in here. No idea how well the camera is going to pick this up because it still kind of has a glossy top coat to it because I haven't put the final clear coat on it yet. I want to do that after I get the pencils applied. See if I can do this without breaking the sunshade off. Again, it's subtle, but to me, I can notice it. And it just helps the details kind of pop. It really almost acts like a highlight, if nothing else, right? Like on the corners and everything. Just adds a little more variety to the final finish. Again, I'm not pressing very hard. Just very lightly, barely even, oops. Might help if the shot was in frame. Just very lightly, barely even touching the tip of the pencil to the model. Just like that. Just going over the sides of the model now with some dark brown panel liner, just to use as like a pin wash. Sure, I probably brought this up before, but when dealing with smaller scales like HO, I find that the black panel liner is usually a little too strong, unless, you know, you're dealing with a really, really dark paint job on something and you need it. You need something that dark to really show up. But yeah, the dark brown usually works really good to kind of give everything that sort of dusty, oily kind of look that a lot of railroad equipment tends to have. As always, going in and applying it kind of heavy, and then wiping it off, working from the top down, sort of add in some additional streaking to the paint job. And there we have it. One thing I noticed while I was particularly taking the masking tape off, but also while I was working on the model as a whole, it seems that the cement that Athearn was using to put a lot of the details on, like the windshield wipers and the various grab irons on the walkways and everything, either they forgot to glue it entirely or the glue they were using just didn't cure because a lot of the smaller components were just kind of press fit into the model. And I had to go through with some Tamiya extra thin cement and glue them all in place. Which is not the end of the world, but, you know, on the other hand, if you spend a bunch of money on a model, you expect it to be built properly. But yeah, it is not the most detailed model in the world, I recognize that. But for my purposes, it'll do just fine. You know, and having a locomotive with this weird 5-colored paint job will, you know, it'll add some visual uniqueness to the layout and will, you know, if nothing else, be a neat conversation starter and a cool story to tell. But yeah, until next time, it's been your boy Shouldn't Paint So Fast. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.